in chapter 58 of the Rule of St. Benedict, it says that when someone approaches the monastery desiring to enter the community, this is what St. Benedict says: if the newcomer keeps on knocking, and after 4 or 5 days it is seen that he patiently bears the harsh treatment offered him and the difficulty of admission, and that he perseveres in his request, let admission be granted him. Then he goes on to say, let him be shown all the hard and rugged things through which we pass on to God. And finally, let this rule be read to him in order after the lapse of 2 months, and let it be said to him, behold the law under which you desire to fight. If you can keep it, enter. If, however, you cannot, depart freely. Interesting. It's brilliant, really, from St. Benedict, because he wanted 2 things of his monks. First, that they would know what they're getting into, and second, that they would choose it freely. And Jesus is asking the same. Jesus delivers the words that we hear in our gospel during the Sermon on the Mount. There's this huge crowd that has followed him to this place. They've followed because they've seen signs and wonders. And after delivering the Beatitudes, he challenges them to live better. Because Jesus wants these would-be followers to know what they're getting into. He didn't come to heal and to preach and to give them everything they wanted and to take away the law and make it a free-for-all. Jesus came to call them to a better way of life, a higher standard of living. But a choice is necessary, an understood and conscious choice to watch how you speak about people, to purify your mind and your heart of judgment, to watch how you swear and break oaths, because all these things, avoiding all these things, lead us to a better life. In that first reading from the book of Sirach, we hear it said, if you choose, you can keep the commandments and they will save you. And in the gospel, Jesus is saying to us, I am the law, I am the commandments. I am the fulfillment of what you've been living. And so we could say, Jesus is saying to us, if you choose to remain in me, then I will save you. And that's a big if. There's a lot riding on that if. And I would say it's not an if that we can just skip over in our lives. In some ways, it's the if that determines the entirety of how we go about our life here on earth. Because to remain with Christ is to allow him to change the way you see the world. We heard about it this last week at the Rescue Project for those who were able to attend, that so many of us have stopped looking at the world through the lens of faith, with this kind of biblical worldview. We no longer see the world in the way that God wants us to see it. And so we miss all the ways in which God is present and at work among us. And in doing so, we kind of slowly and even distractedly live a life that is unconscious of the presence of Christ. But friends, the Lord is doing everything for us. He sets the table for us every day. He is constantly in our midst, always showing us mercy, always calling us into this deep and mysterious life. I love what St. Paul says in that second reading, that we speak of God's wisdom, which is mysterious and hidden. In other words, we can't live a superficial life and expect it to be enough. We have to dig down beneath the surface to recognize what the Lord is doing and what God is trying to say to us. There's a story, a young woman named Marta. I know about her through some friends. She was 27 years old. and was diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed in college, and it went away, and then it came back later. And she battled cancer, and through some great grace and companionship of her friends, she was able to see past her cancer and to keep looking for what God was doing in her life. Because she knew that cancer didn't define her. And we could insert anything. Our job doesn't define us. Our illness doesn't define us. Our relationship with the people around us doesn't define us. She knew that she was defined by her relationship with Christ. And she wrote, in the midst of battling cancer, what I ask when I wake up is, win me over. I have no greater wish, she said. I want to stay with Jesus. It's incredible. And it's the result of someone who is well aware of the cost of following Christ. That we don't manipulate the circumstances. We don't change things so that everything goes our way. But instead, we submit ourselves entirely to the person of Jesus Christ. So that even in the midst of cancer, in the midst of all the struggles that we face, that it's not those struggles that we see, but it's Him. It's Him under the surface saying to us, come closer. Let me embrace you. Let me love you. Let me show you the path that I have marked out for you. This is what it means to be a Christian. To put on the person of Jesus Christ. And to see the world the way the Lord wants us to see it. Look, I don't know about you, but I want everything. I want everything in life. I want to see everything beautiful. I don't want to get caught up in petty things. I want the most beautiful and enriching things that the Lord has to offer. And there's no way to get to those things if we stop on the surface. Because we don't have a superficial faith. We have a faith that calls us to the depths. And so, friends, let's ask the Lord to help us to say yes to Him fully and consciously, so that He can show us what He wants to show us and reveal to us in its fullness all the richness and beauty and joy that waits for us just beneath the surface.